Canadian government has now secured 2.8 million more doses of the Pfizer vaccine between April and June, and they claim that this will actually accelerate the vaccination process. But at the same time, it's not going to change that final date of September to vaccinate all Canadians. Still, until then, the supplies are still very tight, and Canada has fallen, well, way down the list of countries that have vaccinated most of its citizens, into the 40s. This has frustrated some provinces like Manitoba, who this week went out and purchased 2 million doses from a Canadian supplier, even though that potential supplier doesn't have this approved and may not be approved until next year. But have some provinces lost faith in the federal government's procurement plan? And on the other hand, is the federal government getting frustrated that the provinces have not used millions and millions of rapid tests that they've delivered, but are gathering dust? Why is that happening? To talk about that and a lot more, I'm joined now by the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Dominic LeBlanc. Good to have you back on the program, sir. Let me just start with Manitoba, and the Manitoba Premier is about to jump on the show after you, but they've gone out and bought 2 million doses of this potential vaccine from a company in Canada that I know the federal government has also invested in. But he's basically saying he needs an insurance plan because he doesn't trust that your government's going to deliver. Is the federal government's plan losing faith, losing support from the provinces?
I don't think so, Evan. The provinces know that we continue to aggressively pursue the most doses of the approved vaccines that we can get on Canadian soil as quickly as possible. We've had some additional success this week. We share the concern that Canadians have that the faster we can immunize Canadians, the better it'll be, not only for public health, but for the reopening of the economy. We took note of what Premier Pallister did. We have also invested in a number of Canadian potential vaccine candidates. There's a company in Quebec called Medicago that we have made a considerable investment in, and we'll continue to do that.
And again, I just want people to appreciate that's not going to help you get vaccinated from now until September. This is stuff for the future. Now, but he does claim that the federal government actively blocked his province's attempt to purchase supplies from AstraZeneca, from Janssen, from Pfizer, and from Moderna. That he says they have evidence, emails that said those companies will not supply the provinces because the federal government has blocked the province. True or not true?
Evan, I don't think that's true. We've said all along that provinces are obviously sovereign orders of government and under our Constitution, and they can make whatever business arrangements they want with any of these global pharmaceutical companies. We think that as a country, we had a better chance and a better bargaining position to get as many doses as quickly as we can of these approved vaccines. And we're hopeful, as you noted, a number of the companies you mentioned, we hope are approved in the coming days and coming weeks, which will give us even more opportunities to bring those vaccines to Canada quickly. But if provinces want to go on their own and contact these companies, they're obviously free to do.
Minister, what about the rapid tests? Your government has delivered, I think it's about 19 million rapid tests to the provinces. When you look down at the stats, provinces aren't using them. Brian Pallister hasn't even used 1.5% of his. He basically described them as the Ford Pinto, that disastrous car that used to explode. He said they're just not good. What's the federal government's position? Should the provinces be using them? Are you disappointed that they're not?
Sure, we're disappointed that provinces that pushed very, very hard. You'll remember the public outcry led by a number of provincial leaders to hurry up and approve rapid tests and procure them quickly and get them into the hands of provincial healthcare officials, which we have done and which we did obviously happily because we think that it's part of a coherent testing and tracing approach across the country. Some provinces, like Ontario, for example, Evan, have been using them very effectively at points of care where they decide that they need that increased screening. So we think that they have a perfply appropriate role to play in a broader public health surveillance program. And we're encouraging provinces to use them.
Let me talk about what's in the federal government's purview, which is supply. Your government said that in Q2, that's between April and June, Canada is going to receive a total of 23 million vaccine doses by the end of June from Pfizer and Moderna. So if Pfizer is sending, close to 11 million shots, Moderna commitment would be for 12 million doses. They initially planned, though, to vaccinate between 15 and 19 million people in that period of time. That would be impossible with just 23 million doses, right? So the math doesn't add up. So are you guys scaling back the doses for the second quarter? Or basically, are you just banking on the approval of AstraZeneca to fill that up? Like, what is it? Because the math's not adding up.
So, Evan, we've said all along that we're going to aggressively pursue as many of these vaccine candidacies as we can, obviously contingent on their approval by the Health Canada regulators. Everybody is expecting a decision, we hope soon, with respect to AstraZeneca. It's being used in a number of jurisdictions, for example, in Europe now. But Health Canada will make its decision based on the data they have. And if that's approved as safe and effective for Canadians, it will again be another tool that we'll have to vaccinate as many people even more quickly than we might otherwise have. But we've said from the beginning that with the two approved vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna, we will be in a position to meet the targets we've set out. But we hope to have some better news along the way and to perhaps be able to exceed those targets. But we want to be sure that obviously they're safe and effective for Canadians.
Okay, yeah, and we don't know whether that's going to be approved. But, we are waiting for the AstraZeneca approval, Minister, and then maybe Novavax or Johnson & Johnson. Some of these vaccines, there's concerns that they might not be as effective against the new variants. There's concern about AstraZeneca from South Africa against the South African variant. When these come, and we get this big deluge that the federal government's promising, will citizens have the right to choose which vaccine they want? Like, I would like the Pfizer and I would like the Moderna, but I don't necessarily want the AstraZeneca because that might not be as effective against a variant. Or do you have to take what you take?
Evan, that obviously is up to provincial health authorities. The provinces are the ones that are administering these vaccines, these various vaccines to their different populations in a sequence that they decide. And if some provinces decide to give people a menu and others don't, then that'll be their decision. What we're doing is getting as quickly as we can, as many vaccines as we can to the provinces and territories, and they'll decide how best to deploy them.
All right, I got to leave it there. Dominic LeBlanc, always good to have you on the program. Thank you, sir.
So thank you, Evan. Have a great day.